Welcome back. We are talking about abuse this week and the different types of abuse, and now we're going to talk about the signs of abuse. First, I want to talk about some of our testimonials, which I really love. Here's one. It says, mind-blowing literally, from Matilda C. It says, I've been watching several podcasts lately of Dr. Amen and his wife Tana. I'm thoroughly impressed with you both, and the information you have to give us is mind-blowing and so very important for a happy and healthy and hopefully long, fulfilling life. I'm now a huge fan. Thank you both for helping us all with your knowledge and experience. God bless you both. Michelle Callahan. Thank you, Michelle.
So continuing this hard topic we're tackling this week on abuse, we want to talk about some of the signs and symptoms. How do you know if you're in an abusive relationship, either personally, in your family, at work, or even in the society? And it starts with domination and control. That the other person says things on a regular basis that upsets you or frightens you. So
or belittles
if you're
you.
tender-hearted and you find that you're always being anxious or freaked out.
Walking on eggshells, or they're
Walking on
belittling
eggshells.
you. Right.
Another sign is becomes overly and inappropriately jealous of attention from or conversation with others. So they begin to limit, or they attempt to limit your contact with others. And I'm actually thinking about Mean Girls in high school that try to do this. That's actually very common that, these girls become friends or these guys become friends and they start to talk to other people, and it spins that other person into a controlling
Now, we should
situation.
be clear, that is not the same thing as having boundaries in a marriage. I'm clear. You cannot go be with someone else. You can. Actually, you can.
Is that controlling?
But there will be... You can go do it, but there will be consequences.
When we go through these, I have many of them.
So, you can
but
go
yes,
do that.
No, you need.
There are
let's go to
boundaries.
number 3. Monitors your time or whereabouts.
Okay, we need to, wait. We need to talk about this. Yes, I have a pretty intense security system. Think about our lives, what we do. I have a pretty intense security system at my house, and I have an app on my phone called Life 360. I guarantee you, 60 to 70% of the moms out there have this app on their phone for their kids. And if you don't, you should. It monitors where your kids are down to like the address.
It's not just your kids. It's anybody you
put on it.
So before we started this podcast.
He chose to put himself on it.
Before we started this podcast, I see a text opened up on Tana's phone from Life 360. Daniel was 6 minutes on the road. He was going at this speed in his car. He has arrived.
So,
and I'm like, take that with the 11 cameras at home.
Wait.
Monitors your time or whereabouts.
But he chose to be on there. It's designed for your kids, teenage kids who are driving. But as a family, we have chosen to put this on there. And I have to tell you, it's actually really good if you've got elderly parents. Like, I worry if I don't see my mom on there for 2 days. So it's really good. So you can look at that either way.
Number 4, monitors your telephone calls, texts, or email.
Yeah, no, we don't
contacts.
do that. Because the day I feel like I have to start doing that, we have problems.
Makes decisions that affect both you and the family without consulting you or the family or reaching an agreement. So it's domination. Controls the finances or how you spend money. So this is not a relationship.
Right. It's a monarchy.
It's a power
dictatorship.
Over. Repeatedly crosses your boundaries and ignores requests. Make subtle threats or negative remarks with the intent to frightening or control you. So that's domination. What about verbal abuse?
So till death do us part is not allowed?
Well, it's allowed in our relationship because it makes you feel better. And that is absolutely my feeling as well.
Right.
But if it wasn't my feeling,
right.
then
it has to be consensual.
It's absolutely consensual. We'll talk about the Black Widow cage and all of that at another time. This is not appropriate, but trust me, you want to hear that story. But let's get to verbal abuse.
I'm not a Black Widow.
Shows complete disregard and disrespect.
Right.
And that is not something that we do. We respect each other. But John Gottman, who's a very famous marital therapy researcher, says he can tell in a 5-minute interaction with couples with 90-some% accuracy whether or not they're going to get divorced. And this was the thing he pegged it on. When faced with the problem, do they talk to each other with respect, or does it involve disrespect and belittling the other person?
Right.
And I think we're actually really good at
and here's the thing.
showing respect. I mean, not like 100%
Well, no,
of
and
the
here's
time.
but here's the thing. Every couple, I think, is going to have times where one feels disrespected, and sometimes it was intentional by the other person, and sometimes it wasn't intentional. But I think the key is that you have to be able to say it and draw those boundaries, or it's not going to go on very long. Like, it's not going to last.
So another verbal sign of abuse is disregards your opinions, ideas, suggestions, or need. You just don't matter. Makes jokes at your expense, uses sarcasm or teasing to put down the other person or make them feel bad. People go, oh, well, it's just a joke. You can't take a joke. Well, if the other person didn't think it was funny, it's not a joke.
Right.
Swears at you or calls you names, creates circular, never-ending conversations to confuse or exhaust you.
Oh my God,
goodness.
right? I've been in a relationship like that.
Yeah, me too.
Ugh.
Regularly points out your flaws, mistakes, or shortcomings. So we were in church, and one of the pastors said, on average, teenagers hear 7 negative things about themselves.
See, I don't understand
to
that.
1 positive thing about themselves. And if you treat that way, I mean, how are they going to feel good about themselves? And if they don't feel good about themselves, how are they going to be good parents themselves? Demanding and controlling expectations. So these actually come from a website called liveboldandbloom.com. Demanding and controlling expectations. They order you around, treat you like you're a servant. They get angry when their demands aren't met. They demand obedience to their whims. Treat you like a child, behave like a spoiled child. Now, some of these actually are symptoms of borderline personality disorder.
Oh, interesting.
We see a lot of these with people who have that diagnosis. Acts helpless to get their way. So even though it's not sort of domination abuse, it still can be a form of abuse. I have seen that in many relationships. The person becomes so dependent that the other person really has no freedom. They have to drive them everywhere. Nurture them everywhere. So intolerance, lacks empathy, views you as an extension of themselves rather as an individual.
Interesting.
And then it goes to emotional blackmail. Escalates abusive language or behavior if you talk back to them, use guilt trips.
I've been in relationships like that. It's a relationship like this.
Dramatically in public until you agree to what he or she wants. Withholds sex or affection to get his or her way. Extraordinarily common.
The opposite of that is true, though, too. Sometimes forcing yourself on someone.
Would certainly be domination.
Right.
Frequently emotionally distant or unavailable. Gives disapproving or contemptuous looks. It's that look that only your wife can give you.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that one. Sorry.
Unpredictable emotional outbursts. So they control you because you never know what you're going to get.
Does the one above that include eye rolling?
Gives disapproving or contempt. Yeah, I think eye roll would work with that. Jekyll and Hyde.
Oh, yeah.
temperament.
No, that one I know well.
Stomps out of a room, slams doors,
Yes. Throws
sulks,
things
refuses to talk, shakes his finger or her
or
finger or
throws things.
fist at you. Um, Acts jealous or suspicious of your friends. You know, you have to make sure you didn't give them reason for that, right? I mean, because when relationships are threatened, people
Yeah.
get very
And start acting
anxious.
crazy.
Does something to spite you, just to get a rise out of you, which is, I often, in my book, Healing ADD, there's a whole chapter on the games ADD people play.
Yeah, I
And
think,
the first game they play is Let's Fight.
I think you brought up a good point, and we should just throw that in there really fast. This is all the signs of abusiveness, but I think it's always important for the person being abused to take an inventory. Like when you read this list, it's like, did I do something was it always this way, or did I do something to trigger current recent behavior? You know, did I do something to make this person suspicious of me? Did I do something to make this person angry, like legitimately, right?
Well, if there has been a violation,
Right,
and I guess 40% of people who are married have had an affair
right.
of one form or another, that's going to cause
It's going to
a
cause
reaction.
someone
Funny,
to
I was
react.
thinking about, and I'll always am thinking about your frontal lobes, right? The front third of your brain, focus, forethought, judgment, impulse control. But what your frontal lobes really do is they play out the consequences of your behavior. And too often people act in the moment and they don't understand, if I say this, if I do this, well, how's that going to affect my goals a week from now,
Right.
or a month from now, or 10 years from now? And so they're not playing out the consequences of the affair that just may devastate
Right.
that person's emotional life for a decade, or sometimes for the rest of their
So, and
life.
I think there's one important thing to point out here. Like I had a friend one time who I didn't agree with what she was doing. Okay, so she started complaining a lot about her husband, who was actually a very nice person. And so it was hard. It was hard. It's hard to be in that situation where, you know, your friend's like, oh, he's being a jerk. He's doing this. He's doing that. He's being mean. He's saying this. But as I'm talking to her, it's like, I think it's important to be honest with people too. Kind, firm and kind, and honest. Because I'm like, I know you want out, right? So you want out and you actually want to be with this other person. So you're starting to create a scenario that makes it okay for you to leave.
Right, that you create the trouble so you can blame the other person as bad, and in that way, that's your
right. And the
out
kinder thing to do would be to just tell him you don't love him and you want out. That would be kinder than to just stir up trouble and cause him to be quote unquote abusive.
Authentic,
Right.
which ultimately makes you feel good about yourself. This isn't working for me.
But to force him into an
I'm
abusive.
sorry. You end up feeling so much better about yourself than you're bad, you're evil, I have to leave you because you're
Right.
so
She's forcing
terrible.
a nice person into an abusive position. And that's not right.
And
Okay.
there's
That's not right either.
always an interaction. What do you say? There's, you know, your story, his story.
There's three sides to every story: his side, her side, and the truth. And it's all about perspective and perception, because perception is reality, right?
So another group of statements is character assassination. Belittles, insults, berates you in front of other people. Don't do that, especially if you're doing it to get your way with children. It's just so destructive. Puts down your physical appearance or intellect, belittles or trivializes you, tells you your feelings are irrational or crazy. Now, I'm actually a psychiatrist, so I can formally diagnose you as crazy.
No, you don't get to do that in a relationship. Nope. We drew that boundary early on. I'm like, you don't get to psychoanalyze me. Nope.
Turning
Leave it at
other
work.
people against you, corrects or chastises you for your behavior, shares personal information with others. So that's crossing a boundary. Invalidates you, hijacks the conversation.
So I want to comment on the sharing personal information with others. I'm sorry. That's actually a pet peeve of mine. It's always important to have someone you trust to get together with, to have discussions with if they are valuable. It's really dangerous to do this girl talk thing with the wrong people. And it's actually a huge pet peeve of mine to get together with someone that you know is unhappy and tell them your dirty laundry when you know they're going to just reinforce the feelings that you have. Huge pet peeve of mine. So I know that I have a group of friends that if something's going on in my life, I don't care what it is, in what area of my life, if it's kids, if it's whatever, if I go to those people, they're Christian, they're grounded, they're not going to tell me what I want to hear. And that's more important than me going to someone who's going to be like, oh yeah, you should, and just do that whole bashing thing. The male bashing thing is highly dangerous. So stay away from people like that. You want people who are going to make you better, not people who are going to tell you what you want to hear. That's my 2 cents.
That's actually huge.
Huge. Stay away from toxic people. They will destroy your marriage.
That if you're with someone who constantly reinforces your negative feelings about your partner, then the relationship is going to end up blowing up.
Right.
You want someone who gives you accurate, honest feedback.
Right.
Now, if you're with someone that's abusive, you want that information and support.
Right.
For sure. But you have to be careful.
But it's like my friend who was putting the guy in that position. It's like, no. And then I've had another friend who was in an abusive relationship, and I'm like, sweetheart, you're lying to yourself. You need, like, this guy's bad. But you need to, like, have friends who are grounded, that you respect and that you trust, not ones who are just going to tell you what you want to hear.
When we come back, we're going to talk about, well, what do you do if you're in an abusive relationship? Stay with us. Use the code podcast10 to get a 10% discount on a full evaluation at amenclinics.com or on our supplements at brainmdhealth.com. Thank you for listening to the Brain Warriors Way podcast. Go to iTunes and leave a review, and you'll automatically be entered into a drawing to get a free signed copy of the Brain Warriors Way and the Brain Warriors Way cookbook we give away every month.